The sky did not burn. It vanished. There was no explosion, no thunderous roar of kinetic impact, only the terrifying, absolute silence of erasure. Above the ruined plateau where Son Goku stood, the atmosphere had been peeled away, replaced by a violet void that smelled of ozone and ancient dust. Beerus, the god of destruction, hung in the air like a suspended judgment. His finger pointed downward, the tip glowing with the chaotic light of pure Hakai energy. He looked bored, or perhaps merely resigned, his golden eyes devoid of the playful glint that had once defined their rivalry. This was no sparring match. This was a correction. Goku's body screamed. His gi was shredded to ribbons, clinging to skin that smoked from the friction of 1,000 failed assaults. Ultra Instinct had flickered and died, extinguished by the sheer, crushing weight of a power that did not just break bones, but unmade the very concept of resistance. The Saiyan fell to one knee, his breath coming in ragged, wet gasps that rattled deep in his chest. Around him, the 7 Dragon Balls lay scattered in the debris, their orange glow pulsing faintly, like the heartbeat of a dying star. They were not gathered for a wish. They had been knocked loose from Bulma's sanctuary, in the chaos of the god's arrival. "You have reached the ceiling of your kind, Goku," Beerus said, his voice vibrating through the crust of the earth. "But ceilings are there to protect the house from the storm. You insist on tearing the roof off. For the sake of the universe's balance, you must be removed." The Hakai descended. It was a slow, purple sun, indifferent to the desperate cries of Goku's friends in the distance. Goku looked down at the 4-star ball near his hand. He didn't have the energy to fly. He didn't have the key to blast. He only had the will, that stubborn, foolish, infinite Saiyan will. He didn't grab the ball to throw it. He grabbed it to connect. He screamed, not in rage, but in a desperate plea, to the only force in the universe that rivaled the gods in breaking the rules of reality, Shenron. The cry shattered the silence. It wasn't a wish. It was an invitation. The Hakai swallowed the horizon. But before the purple light could consume the Saiyan, a pillar of emerald lightning erupted from the ground, piercing the god of destruction's energy and tearing a hole in the fabric of the execute. The dragon did not rise into the sky. The dragon rose into Goku. To witness the birth of a power that defies the hierarchy of the heavens, keep your eyes on the horizon. The timeline is fracturing, and the legend is being rewritten in dragonfire. Do not look away. Consciousness returned not as a flood, but as a slow, agonizing reconstruction of self. There was no sensation of the ground beneath him, nor the familiar, comforting hum of the Earth's atmosphere. There was only a thick, amber suspension, a heavy silence that pressed against the eardrums like deep water. Son Goku opened his eyes, expecting the sterile white void of the other world or the mahogany desk of King Yama. Instead, he found himself drifting in a boundless ocean of golden fog, illuminated by 7 burning suns that hung motionless in the distance. He tried to move his arm, but the limb felt miles away, heavy with a fatigue that went deeper than muscle fiber. The memory of the purple light, the Hakai, crashed into his mind with the violence of a physical blow. He remembered the heat, the terror of absolute erasure, and the desperate, instinctive scream that had torn from his throat. He checked his chest, his hands. The orange gi was gone, replaced by a wrapping of ethereal smoke that swirled around his scarred form. He was alive, but he was no longer in the universe he knew. "Am I gone?" Goku whispered. The sound of his own voice was startlingly loud, rippling through the amber mist like a stone dropped in a still pond. "You are suspended," a voice rumbled in reply. It did not come from behind him or above him. It resonated from the marrow of his bones, vibrating through the very concept of his existence. "You stand on the precipice of non-existence, Son Goku. The Destroyer's energy gnaws at the shell of this sanctuary. You have seconds in the world above, but here, in the heart of the miracle, you have an eternity to regret your foolishness." The golden mist parted, a colossal shape uncoiled from the darkness, vast and serpentine. It was Shenron, but not the dragon. Goku had summoned 100 times to wish for panties or resurrected cities. This entity was stripped of its servitude. Its scales were not the green of moss, but the deep, burnished emerald of ancient jade, and its eyes glowed with a terrifying, indifferent intelligence. This was the spirit within the porcelain, the fragment of the dragon god Zalama that dreamed while the balls lay scattered. Goku floated upright, his Saiyan instincts flaring despite his exhaustion. "Shenron, you saved me," I answered a summons. The dragon corrected, its snout drifting close enough that Goku could feel the heat of a dying star radiating from its nostrils. But it was an irregular summons. You spoke no wish. You offered no tribute. You simply reached out with a spirit so loud, so unwilling to accept the end, that you cracked the barrier between the physical vessel and the metaphysical truth. You are inside the Dragon Balls, Saiyan, a place where no mortal soul is permitted to tread. Goku clenched his fists, the pain in his body dull and distant. Beerus, he was going to destroy everything. Not just me. He said I was a threat to the balance. I couldn't let him. And so you flee to the one power you believe can override the gods. Shenron rumbled, the sound like grinding tectonic plates. But you misunderstand the nature of our contract. I grant wishes within the limits of my creator's power. I cannot kill a god of destruction. I cannot undo the Hakai once it has been loosed. The purple fire is eating the barrier of this dimension as we speak. When it breaks through, you will vanish, and I will return to stone for a century to heal the scar. Goku looked up at the 7 burning suns, the spiritual manifestations of the Dragon Balls. He could feel their energy, pulsating with a rhythm that felt ancient, older than the Kais, older than the Saiyans. It was a different kind of ki. It wasn't fueled by rage or stamina. It was fueled by possibility. I don't need you to kill him, Goku said, his voice steadying, the old fire igniting behind his dark eyes. I just need enough power to stand up to him. I need to break that ceiling he talked about. If my ki isn't enough, then give me yours. The silence that followed was absolute. The dragon pulled back, its serpentine body coiling into a figure 8 of infinite complexity. My power is not a reservoir to be drawn from, Son Goku. It is the power of cause and effect. To wield it is to rewrite reality, not to punch harder. You asked to merge the chaotic, violent biology of a Saiyan with the absolute, ordering magic of the divine dragon. It is a blasphemy against the hierarchy of angels. I don't care about the hierarchy, Goku snapped, stepping forward on the invisible floor of the void. I care about the people outside. If I burn up, I burn up. But I won't stand still and let myself be erased while my friends are helpless. You've known me since I was a kid, Shenron. You know I don't stop. The dragon stared at him, the red eyes narrowing. For a moment, the vast entity seemed to shimmer, and behind the emerald scales, Goku saw the faint outline of something even larger, a golden silhouette of the Super Shenron, the progenitor. The price of this union is not death, Shenron said softly, a warning that carried more weight than any roar. The price is your humanity. To hold the power of the dragon is to become an avatar of the wish. You will no longer be a warrior, fighting for the thrill of the battle. You will become a force of consequence. Your rage will become storms. Your sorrow will become droughts. You will leave your mortality behind on the floor of this sanctuary. Goku looked down at his hands that had carried logs, held his children, and broken limits. He clenched them tight, feeling the nails dig into his palms. He thought of Chi-Chi, of Gohan, of the look of resignation on Vegeta's face before the sky turned purple. I've always been a Saiyan, raised on Earth, Goku said, looking up with a fierce, sad smile. Maybe it's time I became something else to protect it. Shenron opened its maw, and a light brighter than the Hakai, brighter than the Super Saiyan, began to gather in its throat. Then prepare yourself, Son Goku. We do not grant this wish, we become it. The 7 suns above them collapsed, falling toward Goku like meteors of molten gold. The impact was not a collision of matter, but a collision of histories. When the 7 spheres struck Goku, they did not explode. They liquefied. They washed over him like a tsunami of molten amber, searing through the metaphysical skin of his soul and pouring directly into the hollows where his ki usually burned. It was a violation of the natural order so violent that Goku opened his mouth to scream, but found his voice had been stolen. There was no air here to carry the sound, only the drowning weight of 1,000 centuries of desire. Every wish ever granted by the eternal dragon flooded his mind in a chaotic, roaring torrent. He felt the desperation of a mother wishing for a child's health, the greedy ambition of tyrants wishing for immortality, the simple, pure hope of a boy wishing for a friend. These were not just memories. They were energy. Pure, concentrated intent. Ki, Goku realized through the haze of agony, was the energy of life. It was the fuel of the body, the fire of the spirit. It was finite. It burned. It exhausted. It recovered. But this was the energy of miracle. It was the power to look at the laws of physics and politely decline them. His body began to convulse. The Saiyan biology, bred for combat and evolution through trauma, panicked. His cells tried to fight the intrusion, flaring with the familiar azure light of Super Saiyan Blue, trying to burn away the foreign magic. But the blue fire was suffocated instantly by the heavy, golden sludge of the dragon's essence. The magic did not want to be burned. It wanted to build. It began to rewrite him. Do not fight the current. Shenron's voice thundered, echoing not in his ears but in the marrow of his spine. You are a vessel now. If you stiffen your will, you will shatter. To become the dragon, you must be fluid. You must be the wind before you can be the storm. Goku forced himself to stop fighting. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. Every instinct in his warrior blood screamed at him to push back, to scream, to explode with power. But he let go. He let the amber tide consume him. He felt his bones cracking, not breaking, but shifting, elongating, hardening. becoming denser than any metal found in the mortal universe. Meanwhile, in the shattered reality of Earth's North City, the purple sun of the Hakai finally dissipated, leaving behind a crater so deep that the magma of the Earth's mantle began to bubble up, painting the bottom of the pit in angry, churning reds. Beerus hovered over the abyss, his expression unreadable. The destruction was absolute. There was no debris, no shredded fabric of a gi, no lingering signature of Goku's energy. The god of destruction lowered his hand, the destructive aura fading from his violet skin. He let out a long, bored sigh, though a flicker of disappointment twitched in his ear. A pity, Beerus muttered, crossing his arms behind his back. He was entertaining, in his own loud, barbaric way. But the universe requires order, not a monkey who thinks he can wrestle with the infinite. On the edge of the plateau, Vegeta fell to his knees. He didn't scream, he didn't rage. He simply stared at the empty space where his rival had stood moments ago. He reached out with his senses, scanning the atmosphere, the planet, the solar system, even the distant vibration of the afterlife. Nothing. Kakarot was simply erased. No, Vegeta whispered, his voice trembling with a mixture of fury and denial. He doesn't just end. Not like that. Behind him, Piccolo gasped, clutching his chest. The Namekian stumbled, his eyes wide with a terror that went beyond the loss of a friend. The Dragon Balls. Vegeta spun around. Scattered in the dirt where the shockwave had thrown them, the 7 Dragon Balls lay inert. But they were not the dull gray stone of a deactivated set. They were cracked. Fissures of glowing emerald light were bleeding from the surface of the orange resin, pulsing in time with a heartbeat that felt heavy and subterranean. They weren't dead. They were suffering. What is happening? Gohan asked, landing beside them, his face pale. I can't sense, Dad. I can't sense anything. Beerus turned slowly in the air, his eyes locking onto the pulsing, cracked spheres. For the first time in eons, the god of destruction looked genuinely unsettled. He descended, floating just inches above the 4-star ball. He reached out to touch it, but before his finger could make contact, a spark of green lightning snapped at him, hissing like a viper. Beerus recoiled, his eyes widening. This energy, it isn't Namekian, it isn't divine. He looked up at the sky, which was beginning to darken unnaturally, the clouds twisting into a spiral directly above the crater. Whatever that idiot did in his final moment, he didn't just call the dragon. He broke it. Back in the amber void, the pain had receded, replaced by a sensation of immense, crushing density. Goku floated in the center of the nowhere, but he was no longer just Goku. He looked at his reflection in the polished surface of a floating scale. His eyes were no longer the soft black of a human, nor the teal of a Super Saiyan. They were vertical slits of burning crimson, set in pools of liquid gold. His skin had taken on a faint, iridescent sheen, and along his forearms, patches of emerald scales were emerging, interlocking with a geometry that was mathematically perfect. He flexed his hand. The air around his fingers distorted, rippling like water. He didn't feel stronger in the way he usually did. He didn't feel the overflowing, volatile pressure of ki. He felt absolute. He felt like gravity. The fusion has begun. Shenron's voice came, sounding exhausted, as if the Great Spirit had poured half of its own life into the Saiyan. The vessel holds, but the mind is the weak point. You have the body of a demigod now, Son Goku, but you still think like a mortal brawler. If you try to use this power to throw a punch, you will tear your own arm off. Goku looked up, his new eyes piercing the gloom to find the dragon. Then teach me, he said. His voice had changed, it was deeper, layered with a subsonic growl that vibrated in the chest. Teach me how to fight like a dragon. We do not fight, Shenron corrected, drifting closer until its face filled Goku's vision. We dominate. We do not dodge. We alter the path of the attack. We do not strike. We decree the impact. You must unlearn the martial arts of the turtle and the angel. You must learn the art of the wish. The dragon opened its mouth, and the darkness around them shattered. The training had begun. The concept of weight had always been simple for Goku. It was gravity. It was the density of turtle school shells, the crushing pressure of King Kai's planet, or the artificial heaviness of the time chamber. Weight was something you put on your back, gritted your teeth against, and pushed until your legs stopped shaking. But here, in the Amber Purgatory, the weight was not on his back. It was inside his lungs. You are breathing too loudly, Shenron's voice echoed, surrounding Goku like a cage of sound. You breathe as if you are starving for air. You are desperate. Desperation is the tool of the beggar, not the provider. Goku stood or hovered in the center of a kaleidoscopic storm. The 7 suns he had seen earlier were now orbiting him close, spinning so fast they created a blurred ring of orange light. Every time they passed his head, he felt a wave of nausea, a psychic sickness composed of a billion distinct voices. I wish for money. I wish for youth. I wish he loved me. I wish to rule. I wish for soft panties. The triviality and the tragedy of the universe were mixed together in a sludge that coated his mind. It's too loud. Goku grunted, clutching his head. The emerald scales on his forearms scraped against his scalp, hard as diamond. How do you stand this? It's like the whole universe is screaming at once. I do not stand it. I simply am it, Shenron replied. The great dragon materialized from the mist, his form smaller now, condensed, mirroring Goku's size. He floated cross-legged, a mockery of a meditation pose, his long whiskers drifting in the non-existent wind. A Saiyan's power comes from the self. You burn your own life to create fire. You are a furnace. But a dragon? We are a conduit. We take the chaotic desires of the world and give them shape. You cannot block out the voices, Son Goku. You must let them pass through you without sticking. Shenron raised a clawed hand. From the golden fog, a black sphere materialized. It was void black, absorbing the light around it. It hummed with a frequency that made Goku's teeth ache. This is a nullity, Shenron explained. It is a wish that was denied, a knot in the fabric of causality. Destroy it. Goku didn't hesitate. The solution to a floating black ball was obvious. He dropped into his stance, the muscle memory of 50 years of combat taking over. He drew his hands back, the familiar chant rising in his throat. Me? Blue light struggled to gather in his cupped hands. It flickered, sputtered, and turned a sickly green, before dying out completely. Goku stared at his empty palms in shock. I told you, Shenron said, his voice devoid of sympathy. Ki is the energy of struggle. Here, struggle is meaningless. You are trying to push a door that pulls. Try again. Do not blast it. Will it gone? Goku lowered his hands. He looked at the black sphere. He felt foolish. Will it gone? Just think it away? That wasn't fighting. That was pretending. I don't get it. Goku admitted, his tail now thick, green, and covered in spikes, twitching irritably behind him. I'm a fighter, Shenron. I break things. I don't wish them away. Then, you will die here, the dragon said coldly. And the destroyer will finish what he started on your blue planet. On Earth, the situation was deteriorating with terrifying speed. The 7 Dragon Balls, still scattered in the dirt, had begun to leak. A thick, golden miasma was seeping from the cracks in their surface, heavy and viscous, like mercury. Where the mist touched the rocky ground, the stone didn't melt. It changed. Rocks turned into flowers. Patches of barren dirt sprouted ancient, towering oaks in seconds. The air, previously smelling of ozone and destruction, suddenly smelled of spring rain and honey. It was beautiful, and to Beerus, it was repulsive. Creation, energy. Beerus spat, hovering 10 feet off the ground, his nose wrinkling. Unfiltered, chaotic creation. It is the antithesis of my existence. It is trying to rewrite the destruction I just performed. He looked at his hand. The purple aura of Hakai flickered around his fingers, agitated, reacting violently to the golden mist rising from the balls. The universe required balance. Destruction and creation were 2 sides of a scale. But right now, the creation side was pressing down with the weight of a collapsing star, uncontrolled and unguided. It's spreading. Whis noted, his tone unusually serious, as he tapped his staff on a rock that had just turned into a block of solid gold. The containment field of the Dragon Balls has failed. The magic of Zalama is bleeding into the material plane. If this continues, it won't just grow trees, my lord. It will begin to overwrite the laws of physics in this sector. Gravity could become sound. Time could run backward. Beerus narrowed his eyes. Not on my watch. The god of destruction raised his hand, palm facing the cluster of cracked spheres. A sphere of concentrated Hakai energy, the size of a small moon, formed instantly. It was dense, dark, and hummed with the promise of absolute nothingness. I don't care where Goku went, Beerus declared, his voice booming over the plateau, but his toys are becoming a tumor. I'm cutting it out. Stop. The shout didn't come from Gohan or Piccolo. It came from Vegeta. The Prince of all Saiyans stood directly in the path of the god of destruction, his royal blue aura flaring up like a signal fire. His armor was cracked, his left eye swollen shut from the earlier melee, but his posture was rigid with defiance. Get out of the way, Prince, Beerus warned, the Hakai growing larger. I am doing this universe a favor. Those things are broken. Kakarot is in them. Vegeta snarled, sensing the impossible truth that the others couldn't quite grasp. He didn't just sense magic. He sensed a specific, irritating wavelength of stupidity and stubbornness emanating from the cracked spheres. I can feel him. Hez merged with the energy. If you destroy those balls now, you wipe him out of existence completely. No afterlife, no soul. He was already erased. Beerus roared, his patience snapping. He lost! This is merely the debris. He is not dead until I see the body, Vegeta screamed back, charging his ki. He knew it was suicide. He knew he couldn't stop a Hakai with a Gallic gun. But the pride of the Saiyans refused to let his greatest rival be swept away like dust. If you want to destroy them, you go through me. Beerus stared at him, the purple sun in his hand pulsing. So be it. He launched the attack. The sphere of destruction descended, slow and inevitable. Vegeta thrust his hands forward, pouring every ounce of his remaining life force into a desperate beam to hold it back. The collision shook the tectonic plates. Vegeta's boots carved trenches into the rock as he was pushed back, inch by screaming inch, the purple light eating away at his blue energy. In the void, Goku felt the impact. The entire amber dimension shook violently. The seven suns flickered. Your friend is dying, Shenron noted impassively. The prince is trying to hold back the tide with a teaspoon. He will burn out in less than a minute. Goku's eyes widened. The vertical pupils dilated. Rage, hot and familiar, flooded his chest. He looked at the black sphere, the nullity blocking his path. He didn't think about technique. He didn't think about martial arts. He thought about Vegeta being erased. He thought about the unfairness of it all, that a god could decide they were done, just because he was bored. No, Goku didn't shout. He didn't pose. He simply projected a singular, overwhelming refusal onto reality. Move. It wasn't a request. It wasn't a blast. It was a command. The golden aura around him didn't flare outward. It imploded, turning dense and heavy. The space around Goku warped. The black sphere of nullity didn't explode. It simply ceased to be. It was overwritten by the assertion of Goku's presence. Good, Shenron whispered, his eyes glowing. You have stopped asking. Now, ascend. Goku looked at his hands. The emerald scales were spreading, covering his shoulders, creeping up his neck. He felt the connection to the balls on Earth. He felt the heat of the Hakai pressing down on Vegeta. He closed his eyes and grabbed the invisible thread that connected him to the outside world. And he pulled. The end of Prince Vegeta came not with a bang, but with a buckle. His knees, reinforced by decades of high-gravity training and the pride of a fallen royal line, finally gave way. The purple sphere of destruction pressed down, heavy as a collapsing star, grinding his bones against the bedrock. The royal blue aura flickered and died, suffocated by the absolute authority of the god's energy. Vegeta looked up, one eye swollen shut, the other fixed on the descending void. He did not beg. He did not close his eye. He simply bared his teeth in a final, silent snarl at the inevitability of death. The Hakai touched the tips of his hair. The strands turned to ash instantly. Then, the world stopped. It was not a metaphor. The wind ceased to blow. The dust suspended in the air froze in place. The roar of the tectonic plates grinding beneath them fell into a terrifying silence. The purple sphere of destruction, inches from Vegeta's forehead, halted as if it had hit an invisible wall of diamond. Beerus frowned, his finger twitching. He pushed. The Hakai did not move. What is this? The god of destruction whispered, the boredom in his voice replaced by a sharp, icy confusion. Hakai is absolute. It does not pause. Beneath the sphere, the 7 cracked Dragon Balls exploded. They did not scatter shrapnel. They detonated into pillars of liquid light, emerald, gold, and violent crimson that twisted together into a cyclone of impossible energy. The cyclone swallowed Vegeta, shielding him from the god's wrath, and then expanded outward, pushing the Hakai back with a gentle, inexorable pressure. From within the pillar of light, a hand emerged. It caught the sphere of destruction. Beerus' eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. The hand was not the hand of a mortal. It was covered in interlocking scales, the color of burnished jade, hard and iridescent. The fingernails were black talons, sharp enough to cut the vacuum. The hand squeezed. The Hakai, the energy capable of erasing universes, shattered. It didn't explode, it broke apart like brittle glass, dissolving into harmless purple sparks that rained down on the battlefield. The pillar of light faded, revealing the entity that stood in the center. Vegeta, sprawling on his back, stared up in horror and awe. It was Kakarot, but it was a version of Kakarot that felt like it belonged in a mural on a temple wall, not a battlefield. His gi was gone, replaced by natural armor ridges of bone and scale that protected his chest and shoulders. A long, sinuous tail whipped behind him, heavy with muscle and tipped with a tuft of golden fur. His hair remained in the wild, spiked style of his base form, but it was black at the roots and transitioned into a glowing, translucent teal at the tips, flowing like underwater kelp. But it was the eyes that froze the blood in Vegeta's veins. The sclera were black, the irises were liquid gold, and the pupils were vertical slits that burned with the cold, ancient indifference of a reptile. Goku. Vegeta whispered, the name feeling small in the presence of such density. The creature turned its head. The movement was jerky, unnatural, like a stop-motion animation frame, skipping time. "I am here, Vegeta," Goku said. His voice was layered, the familiar tenor of the Saiyan overlaid with the subterranean rumble of the dragon. "You can rest now." Beerus descended slowly, his feet touching the glassed earth. His ears were pinned back, his tail lashing. For the first time since he had woken from his slumber years ago, the god of destruction felt a prickle of genuine threat. This wasn't the excitement of a good fight. This was the alarm of a predator, realizing another apex predator had entered the territory. "You survived erasure," Beerus said, his voice low and dangerous. "And you smell like him." Zalama. Goku looked at his own hands, flexing the talons. The air rippled around his fingers, distorting the light. "I didn't just survive, Lord Beerus. I asked for a way to win." And the dragon answered, "You merged with the balls." Beerus spat, disgusted. "You foolish monkey. That is forbidden magic. It is a corruption of the divine order." "The order wasn't working for me," Goku replied calmly. He didn't take a fighting stance. He simply stood there, arms hanging loosely at his sides, entirely open. "You said I hit my ceiling, so I broke the roof." Beerus snarled and lunged. The speed was instantaneous, faster than light, faster than thought. A punch aimed directly at Goku's throat, carrying enough kinetic energy to crack the planet in half. Goku didn't dodge. He didn't block. He looked at the fist. "I wish you were far away." The air folded. Space-time buckled like wet paper. Beerus' fist, inches from Goku's scales, suddenly found itself punching empty air 300 miles to the west. The god of destruction stumbled, his momentum carrying him forward through a sudden portal of warped gravity. He crashed into a mountain range on the horizon, pulverizing the peaks into dust in a blink. Whis, hovering high above, raised an eyebrow. "Oh my," the angel murmured, his grip tightening on his staff. He didn't use speed. He rewrote the coordinate data of Lord Beerus' position. He is weaponizing causality. A violet explosion on the horizon signaled Beerus' return. The god tore back across the distance in a beam of light, screaming in rage. He bombarded Goku with a flurry of energy blasts, thousands of purple orbs raining down like a meteor shower. Goku looked up. The vertical pupils narrowed. "I wish to be untouched." The energy blasts didn't miss. They hit him, but upon contact, they turned into cherry blossom petals. Thousands of explosions became a storm of soft, pink flowers that drifted harmlessly against his scales. Beerus skid to a halt 10 meters away, panting, his eyes wide with disbelief. You turned my Hakai energy into flowers. It's hard to control," Goku admitted, a flash of his old, goofy smile breaking through the terrifying draconic visage, though it looked grotesque with the fangs. "I tried to turn them into water. I guess I still need practice." "This isn't fighting," Beerus roared, his ego fracturing under the absurdity of the situation. "This is cheating! You are warping reality to avoid the consequences of combat." "I'm doing what I have to," Goku said, the smile vanishing. The gold in his eyes flared, and the air temperature plummeted 50 degrees in a second. "You fight with destruction. I fight with possibility. If you want to erase me, Beerus, you're going to have to erase the concept of me from the timeline. And I don't think you can do that anymore." Beerus straightened up. The playfulness was gone. The anger was gone. What replaced it was the cold, professional demeanor of a god of destruction doing his job. A silver aura began to bleed into the purple. "Very well," Beerus said softly. "If you want to play God, son Goku, then I will stop holding back the divinity. Let us see if your wishes can rewrite the Ultra Instinct." The collision between the two divinities was silent. Sound, after all, requires air to travel. And in the zone between Goku and Beerus, the atmosphere had been annihilated instantly. Beerus moved like liquid mercury. The silver sheen of Ultra Instinct coated his violet skin, stripping away his ego, his hesitation, and his arrogance. He was no longer a person. He was a reaction. When Goku willed the ground to rise up and crush him, Beerus was already standing on the debris before it had finished moving. When Goku wished for the gravity around the god to increase 1,000-fold, Beerus simply adjusted his center of mass and slid through the heavy air, as if it were water. "You are lagging, dragon." Beerus' voice was cold, devoid of the growl from before. He appeared behind Goku, a chop aimed at the neck. A wish requires a thought. A thought requires time. Instinct requires neither. The blow connected. Goku was sent careening through 3 mountain ranges, his scaled body smashing through granite as if it were wet clay. He skidded to a halt in a valley, coughing up a substance that wasn't red blood, but a glowing, golden ichor. The pain was distant, muffled by the dragon's thick soul, but the shock was real. The Dragon Balls granted miracles, but they were reactive. Ultra Instinct was proactive, It was moving before the reality could be rewritten. Goku pushed himself up. The emerald scales on his shoulder cracked. He wiped the golden blood from his chin. Fast. He grunted, his vertical pupils dilating. Hes dodging the magic before I can finish casting it. You are trying to play a strategy game, while he is playing a reflex game. Shenron's voice rumbled in his mind, sounding agitated. Do not separate the two, Son Goku. You are trying to use the wish as a weapon and your body as a vehicle. Merge them. Make your fist the wish. Goku stood, breathing heavily. The 7 suns inside him spun violently. He looked at Beerus, who hovered in the sky, a silhouette against the darkening sun. Right, Goku whispered. No more tricks. He dropped into a stance. It wasn't the turtle school stance. He spread his legs wide, his claws digging into the bedrock, his tail lashing behind him to counterbalance. He pulled his right arm back, the muscles bunching under the jade scales. He didn't focus on altering the environment. He didn't focus on gravity or flowers or teleportation. He focused entirely on the concept of impact. I wish to hit him. Beerus saw the tensing of the muscle. His body, guided by the perfect autonomy of Ultra Instinct, calculated the trajectory, the speed, and the angle. He drifted to the left, a movement of minimal effort that would let the punch pass harmlessly by. Goku threw the punch. Physically, the fist punched empty air. Beerus was 3 feet to the left, but the universe corrected itself. Because Goku had wished for the hit, reality decided that Beerus' dodge was an error. Space-time violently snapped back, jerking Beerus' body 3 feet to the right, directly into the path of the fist. Crack. The sound was sickening, the sound of divine bone fracturing. Beerus' head snapped back, his eyes rolling white as the sheer, reality-warping force of the blow sent him rocketing into the upper atmosphere. The shockwave flattened the valley, turning the rock into fine sand. High above, Whis gasped. He didn't aim, the angel observed, his composure finally cracking. He edited the outcome. He removed the possibility of missing. Beerus stopped his ascent in the exosphere. He clutched his jaw, spitting out a tooth. The silver aura around him flared violently, turning jagged and aggressive. He looked down at the tiny green speck on the surface, and for the first time, in millions of years, he felt the cold grip of mortality. An anomaly, Beerus hissed. He is a glitch. If I don't delete him now, he will rewrite the rules of the hierarchy. Beerus raised both hands. He didn't summon a sphere of destruction. He began to draw energy from the universe itself. The stars in the daylight sky dimmed. The vacuum of space began to twist, funneling into his palms. He was preparing a Hakai of such magnitude that it wouldn't just destroy Earth, it would erase the solar system's history. Begone, Son Goku. The beam fired. It was a column of pure erasure, wide enough to engulf a continent. On the ground, Goku looked up. He felt the heat. He felt the end. The dragon inside him roared in defiance. But Goku knew, a simple wish wouldn't stop this. You couldn't wish away a forest fire while standing in the middle of it, unless you became the fire. Goku didn't block. He roared, a sound that blended a Saiyan scream with a draconic bellow, and flew directly into the beam. Hes mad, Vegeta shouted from the sidelines, shielding his eyes. Goku's body burned. The scales blackened and peeled away, revealing raw, glowing energy underneath. But he kept pushing. He wasn't fighting the energy. He was eating it. He opened his mouth, unhinging his jaw like a serpent, and began to consume the Hakai. It was agony. It tasted like ash and void. But the dragon was the master of matter, and Hakai was just another form of energy to be repurposed. Goku swallowed the destruction, his stomach glowing a violent, sick purple. He converted the energy of death into the fuel of life. He broke through the top of the beam, soaring out of the atmosphere, a burning comet of emerald and violet. He slammed into Beerus, tackling the god of destruction into the vacuum of space. They tumbled through the dark, grappling like wild beasts. Beerus clawed at Goku's face, drawing golden blood that floated in zero-G bubbles. Goku bit into Beerus' shoulder, his fangs piercing the god's skin. They were no longer fighting with technique. They were brawling with the desperation of two forces that could not coexist. The fabric of the universe around them began to groan. Stars flickered. The darkness of space began to crack like a windshield, revealing a blinding white light behind the reality. Suddenly, a staff tapped the vacuum between them. Clack. The sound was impossible in space, yet it rang with the clarity of a temple bell. Goku and Beerus were instantly paralyzed. Their momentum ceased. Their auras were dampened to embers. Between them stood a figure small in stature, but infinite in presence. He wore a halo of blue behind his head, and robes of impeccable dark green. His eyes were violet, like the void, but held no malice, only a terrifying, polite curiosity. The Grand Priest had arrived. That is quite enough, the Grand Priest said. His voice transmitted directly into their minds. You are cracking the aquarium, children. If you continue, the water will spill out, and the Xenosamas will get their feet wet. Goku drifted back, his chest heaving. The dragon influence receded slightly, allowing his human consciousness to surface. He looked at his hands, claws, scales, blood. He looked at Beerus, bruised, battered, terrified. He started it, Goku said, the excuse sounding absurdly childish, coming from a 6-foot dragon man. The Grand Priest turned his gaze to Goku. The smile didn't reach his eyes. Son Goku, you have bonded with the unauthorized creation of Zalama. You are currently a walking cosmic violation. By all laws, I should erase you where you float. Goku stiffened. However, the Grand Priest continued, tapping his chin. It has been an eon since a mortal surprised me. The Omni Kings are bored. And a bored king is dangerous. He gestured with his hand, and the shattered space around Earth repaired itself instantly. We will move this venue, the Grand Priest declared, the world of void. You will fight until one energy signature is extinguished. If Goku wins, his existence is ratified. If Beerus wins, the anomaly is corrected. Do you accept? Goku looked at Earth, swirling peacefully below them. He looked at Beerus, who was wiping blood from his lip and nodding grimly. I accept, Goku said, his voice vibrating with the dragon's resolve. But I'm not fighting to be ratified. I'm fighting to wish for a future where we don't have to do this every time a god gets bored. The Grand Priest smiled, and the universe dissolved into white. The world of void was not merely empty. It was the architectural negation of existence. There was no horizon, no light source, no ambient hum of cosmic radiation. It was a canvas of infinite oppressive teal darkness, a place designed for one purpose, to contain power that would otherwise shatter the fragile glass of the multiverse. The Grand Priest hovered high above a constructed platform of Kachikachin, his hands clasped behind his back. He looked like a porcelain doll, suspended in deep water, his expression one of serene, terrifying anticipation. Below him, on opposite ends of the indestructible tile floor, stood the two combatants. Beerus, the god of destruction, had stripped himself of his golden armbands and collar. He stood naked in his divinity, a lean, violet cat thing that radiated a pressure so intense the void itself seemed to recoil from his skin. His aura was no longer a flickering flame. It was a solid, roaring cloak of purple nebula, dense with the gravity of a black hole. He looked ancient, he looked tired, he looked invincible. Opposite him stood the entity that had been Son Goku. The transformation had advanced. The Saiyan was gone, consumed by the metamorphosis. Goku was now a bipedal fusion of mortal muscle and celestial armor. His chest was encased in plates of emerald chitin, pulsing with a rhythmic, golden light. His tail was thick enough to crush a planet, lashing the air with a whip-crack sound. But it was his face that held the true horror of the change. The jaw had widened, the teeth lengthened into translucent fangs, and the eyes, those terrible, vertical slits, burned with the accumulated desires of a trillion souls. The rules are simple. The Grand Priest's voice echoed without a source. There are none. The match concludes when one flame is extinguished. Begin. Beerus did not rush. He did not taunt. He simply raised a hand, palm open, fingers splayed. Before I erase you, dragon, Beerus said, his voice sounding like grinding stones, know that I respected the Saiyan. He was a fool, but he was my fool. You are just a theft. A mortal wearing a god's skin. Goku tilted his head. The movement was avian, jerky. Inside his mind, the voices were deafening. I wish. A million prayers, for rain, for money, for love, for revenge. They swirled in a hurricane of intent, threatening to wash away the memory of the man named Goku. He had to focus. He had to find the anchor. Chichi's voice. Gohan's laugh. The smell of bacon. I am still here, Beerus, Goku rasped, the sound layered with the hiss of steam. And I'm not stealing anything. I'm borrowing the universe to save it. Then burn, Beerus whispered. The god of destruction clenched his fist. The space around Goku didn't explode. It collapsed. A sphere of destruction manifested not as a projectile, but as an environmental condition. The vacuum turned purple. The concept of solid matter within a 100-foot radius of Goku was revoked. The floor dissolved. The air dissolved. Goku's scales began to smoke, then turned to ash. It was the Hakai of a master. It was not an attack, it was a law. You do not exist, Goku roared, the sound silent in the vacuum, but felt in the bones of the spectators. He didn't try to fly out of the zone. He didn't try to blast it. He looked at the dissolving reality of his own arm, watching the emerald scales flake away into nothingness. I wish to be eternal. The Dragon Balls inside him shrieked. The wish was too big, too absolute. It defied the paradox of the balls themselves. They were created by a Namekian, originally. refashioned by Dende, powered by Zalama. They were not truly eternal, but Goku poured his Saiyan soul, the infinite fuel of the limit breaker, into the engine of the wish. The destruction stopped. The purple light eating Goku's arm didn't fade. It was rejected. The ash that had drifted away paused, reversed trajectory, and fused back into his skin. The scales re-knit themselves. The destroyed floor beneath him reconstructed itself from the memory of its atoms. Beerus' eyes narrowed. Regeneration? No, reversion. You are winding back the clock on your own damage. I am refusing the end. Goku growled. He launched himself forward. He moved not with speed, but with location transfer. One moment he was standing still. The next, he was occupying the space directly in front of Beerus. He slammed a clawed fist into the god's gut. Beerus caught the fist. The impact shockwave cracked the infinite void, creating spiderwebs of white light in the teal darkness. Refusal is not enough. Beerus roared. He twisted Goku's arm, the sound of divine bone snapping, echoing loudly. With his other hand, Beerus drove a knee into Goku's chest, shattering the emerald plating. You wish to be eternal? I am the inevitability that proves you wrong. Beerus unleashed a point-blank volley of Hakai blasts. Each one was strong enough to vaporize a galaxy. They hammered into Goku's chest, driving him back, burning through the dragon scales, searing the flesh underneath. Goku screamed, a sound of pure agony as the destruction ate faster than the wish could heal. He was losing. The dragon's power was passive, reactive. Destruction was active, aggressive. To wish for rain takes time. To burn the forest takes a spark. Think, Goku told himself, the voices in his head screaming in panic. You can't just heal, you have to win. How does a dragon fight a destroyer? A memory surfaced. Not a dragon memory, but a Goku memory. He was a child, standing before Master Roshi. Move well, learn well, play well, eat well, and rest well. The basics, the foundation. Then, another memory. Whis, tapping his staff. You think too much. Let the body decide. The dragon wanted to control reality. Ultra Instinct wanted to flow with it. They were fighting each other inside him. The dragon was trying to build a dam. Ultra Instinct was the river. Don't build a dam, Goku realized, watching another purple sun form in Beerus' hand. Become the flood. Goku stopped wishing to be healed. He stopped wishing to be tough. He looked at the Hakai energy rushing toward him. It was pure chaos, pure destruction. I wish to be the destruction. It was a paradox. A wish of creation used to embody destruction. The ultimate blasphemy. When the purple beam hit Goku, it didn't burn him. It was absorbed. His emerald aura turned a violent, sick violet. The gold in his eyes was swallowed by the purple of the destroyer. He hadn't blocked the attack. He had wished his own key signature to match it perfectly. Beerus froze. For the first time, the god looked horrified. You assimilated the Hakai? Goku looked at his hands. They were wreathed in the god of destruction's own energy, mixed with the dragon's lightning. I told you, Beerus, Goku said, his voice now a triple harmonic of Saiyan, dragon, and destroyer. I'm learning. Goku raised his hand. He didn't form a ball. He extended 2 fingers. Hakai. The beam that erupted from the dragon's fingers was not purple. It was emerald black. It tore across the platform, ripping through the void. Beerus barely dodged, the beam grazing his ear. The tip of the god's ear didn't just vanish. It turned into stone and then crumbled to dust. Petrification via entropy. Whis observed from the sidelines, his face pale. He is combining the magic of the Dragon Clan with the energy of destruction. He is no longer fighting with martial arts. He is fighting with the source code of the universe. Beerus touched his bleeding, crumbling ear. He looked at the blood on his fingers. Then, he looked at Goku. A slow, terrifying grin spread across the cat's face. Finally, Beerus whispered. A challenge worthy of the final sleep. The god of destruction hunched over. The violet aura condensed, turning silver. The heat evaporated. The pressure disappeared. Beerus entered the completed Ultra Instinct. Come, dragon, Beerus said softly. Let us see whose truth is stronger. The platform in the world of void was no longer a fighting ring. It was the event horizon of a singularity. On one side stood Beerus, an entity of perfect, fluid silence. The silver light of mastered Ultra Instinct coated him like a second skin, shimmering with a transcendent calm that belied the violence he was capable of. He did not waste movement. He did not waste breath. He was the stillness before the execution. On the other side was Goku, a storm of contradictions. He was a Saiyan, fueled by the dragon's magic and armed with the stolen energy of a destroyer. His aura was a chaotic tempest of emerald green and violent purple, crackling with black lightning that tore holes in the floor just by existing. He was loud, ragged, and terrifyingly powerful. You are messy, Beerus said. He didn't shout. The words simply arrived in Goku's mind. Goku roared, launching himself forward. He didn't just fly. He folded space, appearing instantly in front of Beerus, with a clawed hand wreathed in the emerald Hakai. He slashed. Beerus didn't dodge. He flowed. He moved through the gap in the attack that hadn't existed a millisecond before. His body contorted with liquid grace, sliding under the claw and delivering an open palm strike to Goku's ribs. Thoom. There was no crunch of bone, only the sound of a deep bell tolling. The force of the blow was precise, bypassing the dragon's scales and exploding directly into Goku's internal organs. Goku gasped, spitting golden ichor. He spun, his tail whipping around to decapitate the god. Beerus drifted over the tail like a leaf caught in a breeze, spinning in midair to deliver a heel drop to Goku's skull. Goku crashed into the Kachi-Kachin, cratering the indestructible material. "You are wielding infinite power with the mind of a brute," Beerus lectured, landing softly a few feet away. "You wish for strength, you wish for impact, but you cannot wish for perfection. That must be earned." Goku pushed himself up, shaking his head. The voices in his mind were screaming, "Kill him, save us, end it." The dragon's instinct was to overwhelm. The Saiyan's instinct was to brawl. Neither was working against a being who had removed the gap between thought and action. "Has right," Goku thought, wiping blood from his eyes. "I'm trying to force my will on the universe. Hez, letting the universe move him. I'm fighting against the current. He is the water." Goku closed his eyes. The vertical pupils vanished behind his lids. He felt the seven suns spinning in his chest. He felt the stolen destruction in his veins. He felt the Saiyan fire in his gut. "Stop asking," he told himself. "Stop wishing." "Shenron," Goku whispered internally. "Quiet." The dragon roared in protest. "We are the wish." "No," Goku answered, his mental voice firm. "We are the warrior." "Let me drive." Goku stood up. He didn't power up. He exhaled. A long, hissing breath that expelled the purple Hakai energy, expelled the frantic desperation, expelled the noise. The emerald aura calmed. It stopped thrashing. It smoothed out, turning into a gentle, flowing river of green light that clung to his body like silk. He opened his eyes. The vertical pupils were still there, but the burning red rage was gone, replaced by a crystalline, silver focus. He had combined them: Dragon Ball magic, Saiyan biology, and the state of mind of the angels. Super Saiyan Dragon, Ultra Instinct. Beerus' eyes widened slightly. Oh. Goku vanished. There was no sound of movement, no displacement of air. One moment he was standing 20 feet away. The next, his fist was buried in Beerus' stomach. Beerus gagged, his eyes bulging. He hadn't seen it. His body hadn't reacted. Because Goku hadn't traveled through space, he had wished himself to the point of impact, bypassing the causality of travel entirely. Beerus was launched backward, skidding across the platform. He flipped to his feet, his face contorted in a mix of pain and exhilaration. "Yes, that is it! Use the magic to cheat the physics!" The god of destruction attacked. A flurry of punches, each faster than light. Goku met them. He didn't block. He rewrote. Beerus threw a right hook. "I wish your arm was heavy." Beerus' arm dipped a fraction of an inch, just enough for Goku to slip past it and land an elbow to the jaw. Beerus kicked. "I wish the ground was sticky." The floor grabbed Beerus' pivot foot for a microsecond, ruining his balance. Goku swept his leg, knocking the god into the air. It was a dance of impossible complexity. Goku was editing reality in real time to create openings, and then using Ultra Instinct to exploit them before the universe could correct the edit. It was the ultimate fusion of the divine and the arcane. The Grand Priest watched from above, his smile gone. He was leaning forward, fascinated. "He is not just fighting a god," he murmured. "He is fighting the narrative of the battle itself." Beerus was panting. He was bruised, bleeding, and his silver aura was flickering. He looked at Goku, who stood opposite him, battered but burning with a terrifying, quiet intensity. "I admit it," Beerus said, wiping a trail of violet blood from his nose. "You have broken the ceiling. You are standing on the roof. Then let's finish it," Goku said. His voice was no longer a monster's growl. It was calm. It was Goku. Beerus nodded. One final clash. No more tricks. No more rewrites. Just power. Beerus raised his hands. The silver aura exploded, turning into a giant avatar of a purple cat, a construct of pure destruction energy. It towered over the arena, 100 feet tall, roaring with the voice of the end times. Goku crouched. The emerald light flared. The 7 Dragon Balls inside him aligned. Behind him, the spectral image of Super Shenron, the golden dragon of the gods, materialized, its wings spanning the void. Hakai. Beerus screamed, bringing the giant avatar's hands down. Dragon Fist. Goku roared, launching himself upward. The collision was blinding. The world of void turned white. The sound was the scream of reality being torn in half. The emerald dragon and the purple cat collided, their jaws locking, their energies grinding against each other in a stalemate of absolute power. Goku was in the center of the light, pushing. His skin was cracking. The power was too much. He was burning out. The Dragon Balls were fracturing inside him. I can't hold it, Goku thought, feeling his consciousness slipping. It's too heavy. Then, he heard it. Not a wish, not a prayer, just a voice. Do it, Kakarot. You are the best. Vegeta. Goku smiled. He didn't wish for strength. He didn't wish for victory. He simply poured every last drop of his life, his memory, his love for the fight, into one final push. The Emerald Dragon's jaws crushed the purple cat's neck. The Hakai energy shattered. Goku punched through the god's avatar, through the sphere of destruction, and connected with Beerus' chest. The light consumed them both. The light did not fade. It retreated. It pulled back from the center of the world of void like a tide rolling out, leaving behind a silence so profound it felt heavy on the skin. The arena was gone. The Kachikachin tiles, the strongest material in the multiverse, had been reduced to a fine, glittering dust that hung in the teal void like a nebula. Suspended in this dust were two figures. Lord Beerus lay floating on his back. His body was a map of bruises, his violet skin scorched and smoking. The divine garments, the pants, the sash, were tattered rags. His chest rose and fell in jagged, shallow hitches. He was awake, but the silver light of Ultra Instinct had been extinguished. He stared up at the endless nothingness, his golden eyes wide, not with fear, but with a bewildered realization. He was alive, but he had been stopped. Drifting a few meters away was Son Goku. He was no longer the emerald monster. The towering, scaled armor had receded, sinking back beneath his skin. He had returned to a form that resembled a Saiyan, but the change was etched into his very biology. His hair remained black, but possessed a faint, rhythmic shimmer, like oil on water. On his forearms and neck, faint patterns of green scales remained, glistening like tattoos. His eyes were closed, his body limp, his arms drifting at his sides. Winner. The Grand Priest's voice chimed, cutting through the silence like a scalpel. None. Beerus coughed, a wet, hacking sound that expelled a glob of violet blood. He turned his head slowly to look at the angel. None, he rasped. I am on my back. He is standing. It was true. Though unconscious, Goku was upright. He floated vertically, his head bowed, his limbs relaxed. He wasn't supporting himself with flight. Space itself had hardened around him, cradling him like a statue in a niche. He is not standing, Lord Beerus, the Grand Priest corrected gently, descending to hover between them. He is anchored. The reality of this dimension is bending to support him, because he unconsciously wished it so. He is asleep, yet his will continues to rewrite the environment. The Grand Priest drifted closer to Goku, examining the Saiyan with a look of clinical fascination. He reached out a pale finger to touch Goku's forehead. Ripple. The air around Goku distorted. A spectral image of Shenron's head snapped out from Goku's chest, jaws gaping, roaring a silent warning at the High Priest. The angel withdrew his hand, smiling. Fascinating, the Grand Priest mused. The Dragon God's fragment has become territorial. It recognizes the Saiyan not as a host, but as its heart. If I were to erase him now, the shockwave would shatter the Dragon Balls across all timelines. It would render the concept of wishing inert permanently. Beerus struggled to an upright position, wincing as his ribs knit themselves back together. So, the destroyer grunted, wiping his mouth. We are stuck with him. We are enriched by him. The Grand Priest corrected. He turned to the viewing void where the Omni Kings sat, clapping their hands in delight. The Xenosamas were entertained. The balance of the hierarchy has been adjusted. Destruction has found its counterweight. Not creation, which is the province of the Kaioshins, but possibility. Beerus looked at Goku. The resentment he had felt earlier, the anger at a mortal handling divine tools, had evaporated. In its place was a weary, grudging respect. The prophecy of the Super Saiyan God had been a lie. This was the truth. The Oracle Fish hadn't seen a god. It had seen a dragon. Wake him up, Whis, Beerus muttered, turning away. I'm hungry, and I have a headache. The return to Earth was not a triumph. It was a crisis. When Whis transported the group back to the Capsule Corporation grounds, the atmospheric pressure of the planet dropped instantly. Clouds swirled into a vortex above the city. As Goku's feet touched the grass, the lawn didn't just bend, it bloomed. Flowers erupted from the soil in a 10-foot radius around him. Wild, chaotic, prehistoric flowers that shouldn't have existed in this era. Vegeta, who had been waiting with Bulma and the others, stepped back, his eyes narrowing. He could feel it, the sheer, radiating density of Kakarot's presence. It felt like standing next to a reactor core that was leaking radiation. Kakarot, Vegeta said, his voice tight. You're leaking. Goku blinked, looking down at his hands. He felt heavy, not physically, but spiritually. Every stray thought he had, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I hope the grass is soft, was instantly manifesting. A cup of water appeared in the air. The grass grew 3 inches taller. A soft pillow materialized under his elbow. I can't turn it off, Goku whispered, panic flickering in his eyes. The vertical pupils dilated. Shenron is quiet, but the power is still flowing. It's like the faucet broke. You have become a singularity of desire, Whis explained, tapping his staff on the ground to dissolve the random objects Goku was inadvertently creating. Your soul and the Dragon Balls have fused permanently. You are no longer just a biological organism, Goku. You are a walking, wish-granting engine. If you stay here, your subconscious desires will slowly rewrite the planet. You might wish for eternal peace while you sleep, and wake up to find every human turned into a statue. The silence that followed was terrifying. Chi-Chi covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. Gohan stepped forward, his fists clenched. So he has to leave, Gohan asked, his voice cracking. After everything, he saved us, and the reward is exile. Goku looked at his family. He looked at the blue sky of Earth. He felt the dragon inside him, vast and ancient, curling around his heart. The dragon didn't care about Earth. It cared about balance. It couldn't exist within the fragile ecosystem of a mortal world without crushing it. It's okay, Gohan, Goku said softly. He forced a smile. It was the old smile, goofy, warm, but the fangs made it look sad. I felt it during the fight. I'm too big for the room now. Beerus stepped forward, his hands behind his back. He looked at his rival. You cannot stay in the mortal realm, and you are not a destroyer, so you cannot live on my planet. You are something else. A guardian. A guardian of what? Goku asked. The Dragon Gate. Whis answered. The intersection between the mortal universe and the divine realm of Zalama. There is a space between dimensions, a sanctuary where the dragon gods sleep. You belong there now. You will be the keeper of the miracle. When the universe needs a wish that defies fate, they will not gather the balls. They will pray to you. Goku scratched the back of his head, a nervous laugh bubbling up. Sounds kinda boring. Is there anyone to fight there? The strongest warriors of history, who have been erased from time, often find their way to the drift. The Grand Priest's voice echoed from Whis' staff. You will not be lonely, Son Goku, and you will be the final line of defense should anything threaten the multiverse from the outside. Goku looked at Vegeta. The prince stood with his arms crossed, staring at the ground. Vegeta, Goku said. Vegeta looked up. There was no jealousy in his eyes anymore. Only the profound loneliness of a runner who realizes the person ahead of him has started flying. Don't get rusty, Kakarot, Vegeta scoffed, though his voice lacked its usual bite. If you become a lazy god who just sleeps on a pile of gold, I will find a way to that dimension and kick your ass. Goku grinned. I'm counting on it. He turned to Chi-Chi and Goten. This was the hardest part. He knelt down, the grass blooming into white lilies around his knees. He hugged them. He had to be careful, so careful not to crush them, not to wish them into diamonds or stars. He'll be watching, Goku whispered into Chi-Chi's hair. I'm not dying. I'm just going to work. A really far away work. Just make sure you come home for dinner. Chi-Chi sobbed, hitting his chest weakly. Even if it takes 1,000 years. Goku stood up. He nodded to Beerus. He nodded to Whis. Ready? Whis asked. Yeah, Goku said. He looked at the sky one last time. Let's go. Gravity released him. It did not fight to keep him. It simply acknowledged that it no longer applied. Goku began to rise. He didn't fly with the roar of ki or the crackle of an aura. He drifted upward, weightless, as if the sky itself were inhaling him. Below him, the figures of his family and friends shrank Chi-Chi, weeping into Gohan's shoulder. Vegeta standing rigid with his arms crossed, Bulma shielding her eyes against the brilliance. As he ascended past the cloud layer, the atmosphere around him began to change. The blue sky dissolved into a swirling tunnel of liquid amber and deep, cosmic violet. He was passing through the membrane of the mortal universe, crossing the threshold that separated the finite from the infinite. Shenron, Goku said, his voice echoing in the silence of the ascent. Are we there yet? The dragon's voice rumbled, no longer separate, but woven into Goku's own thoughts. There is no there, Son Goku. There is only the threshold. You are the key that locks the door behind us. The tunnel shattered into light. Goku floated in a realm that defied geometry. It was a vast, golden expanse, populated not by planets, but by floating islands of crystalline rock and rivers of pure starlight. In the distance, colossal orbs hovered the Super Dragon Balls, the size of planets, humming with a resonance that shook Goku's bones. This was the realm of Zalama, the divine workshop where the laws of reality were forged. It was empty. It was silent. It was perfect. Goku landed on the central dais, a platform of obsidian suspended in the golden void. He looked at his hands. The suppression he had forced upon himself on Earth was lifted. He exhaled, and the transformation took him fully. The emerald scales surged, covering his chest, his arms, his neck. His hair flowed into the long, teal mane of the dragon god. His eyes ignited with the vertical, crimson pupils of the eternal predator. He grew in size, his presence expanding until he felt as large as a galaxy. He was no longer a man trying to hold a dragon. He was the dragon wearing the memory of a man. He sat down, crossing his legs in the center of the dais. He closed his eyes. He could feel the universe humming below him. He could feel the pulse of every star, the rotation of every galaxy. He was alone. But for the first time in his life, the hunger for battle was quiet. He didn't need a fight to prove he existed. He was existence. Back on Earth, the seasons turned. The crater where Goku and Beerus had fought was never filled. It became a lake, the water glowing with a faint, inexplicable warmth, even in the deepest winter. The grass around it remained eternally green, a silent monument to the energy that had bled into the soil. The 7 Dragon Balls, scattered once more, had turned to stone. They were heavy, gray, and cold. Bulma kept them in a glass case in the Capsule Corp lobby, not as tools to be used, but as relics of a bygone age. The era of easy miracles was over. The era of consequence had begun. Vegeta stood on the edge of the lake, skipping a stone across the glowing water. His hair was graying at the temples, lines of age and wisdom etching his face. He had not stopped training. In fact, he had trained harder than ever, pushing his body past the breaking point, unlocking depths of destruction energy that Beerus had nodded at with approval. But he wasn't training to defeat a rival anymore. Papa, Vegeta turned. Bulla, now a grown woman, stood on the hill. Are you talking to him again? Vegeta looked back at the sky, where the stars were beginning to emerge in the twilight. I am not talking to him. Vegeta grunted, adjusting his gloves. I am threatening him. I told him that if he dares to get comfortable up there, I will climb the hierarchy of the gods just to drag him back down for a spar. And... Bulla smiled. Did he answer? Vegeta smirked. It was a small, rare expression of genuine peace. No. But the wind picked up. Hez listening. Vegeta turned and walked back toward the lights of the city. The rivalry was not over. It had simply changed venues. It was no longer a race to see who was stronger. It was a promise to see who could endure the longest. Deep in the golden void, time meant nothing. It could have been a year. It could have been a millennium. Goku sat on the obsidian dais, still as a statue. Dust from the birth of nebulae settled on his shoulders. He was meditating, his mind drifting through the currents of causality, watching the multiverse expand and contract like a breathing lung. He saw empires rise and fall. He saw new heroes emerge on Earth, wearing the orange gi, carrying the legacy of the Turtle School. He saw Pan teaching her grandchildren how to fly. He saw Vegeta's final day, a warrior's death surrounded by family, and felt the prince's spirit pass through the other world, burning bright and proud. Suddenly, a ripple disturbed the golden silence. It came from the outside, beyond the Super Dragon Balls. Beyond the jurisdiction of the Grand Priest, something was scratching at the glass of reality. A pressure, a hunger, something ancient and cold that wanted to break in and extinguish the lights of the universes. The Grand Priest, watching from his palace far below, felt a shiver of genuine fear. He reached for his staff to alert the Omni-Kings. But before he could move, he felt it. Above the multiverse, the Guardian stirred. On the obsidian dais, the statue moved. Dust cascaded off the emerald scales. The tail, thick as a mountain range, lashed out, cracking the golden air. Goku opened his eyes. The crimson pupils narrowed. The gold in his irises flared with the light of a billion suns. He stood up, stretching his arms, his joints popping with the sound of thunder. He looked toward the dark tear forming in the fabric of the void, the threat from the outside. A smile spread across his face. It wasn't the benevolent smile of a god. It was the wild, eager grin of a Saiyan, who had finally found a fight worth waking up for. He clenched his fist. The emerald aura exploded, shaking the foundations of the dimension, signaling to the cosmos that the gate was barred. Yo, Goku whispered to the encroaching darkness, his voice carrying the weight of an absolute decree. You look strong. He dropped into his stance. Let's go. The stars burned quietly, as if holding their breath, watching the dragon leap into the dark.